Welcome to Interval Interviews, Tommy. This is like number 36 or something like that. Where are you in the world?
I'm near Lanark, so I'm in Scotland. Yeah.
How was lockdown for you? How did you cope? And how did you fill your time?
Well, as normal, I was very busy catching up on lots of projects. I think there was an album I recorded in 2015, my second Karma record that I hadn't got around to mixing because I was too busy with school and the SNGO, and so I got around to mixing that, editing that, which was cool. But
Can you do all that at home?
yeah. I mean, I would prefer not to, but I did this at home. So it took me longer than if I was in a studio.
Yeah.
So normally I would spend 2 days in a studio, but because I do it myself, it takes me, 4 or 5 weeks to get to learn how to do it properly. So, I bought lots of plugins and different EQs and, experimented, did a few mixes, went in my car, listened, didn't like any of them. And, after 5 weeks, got to a place where, okay, now it's sounding reasonable.
Did you enjoy it? Because I like, that's one of my favorite bits is the mixing, intriguing and creative and fun.
Well, I enjoy it, but there's a lot of decisions to be made, I mean, how do we pan the drums? Are we panning them from looking at the drums, from playing?
Oh, yes.
Drums? Do we want the cymbals really wide or only like 9 and 3?
So did you find lockdown kind of gave you some time to catch up on things that had been sort of sitting there?
Not particularly, no, because all the other work became busier. School became busier, so I had to construct a web portal for the students to do all their online submissions, and that was a lot of work which I wouldn't have needed to do. I'd rather not do that. I certainly wouldn't do it for myself. I'd hire somebody, and I prefer the process of composition or practicing, arranging for big band and commissioning other people and organizing the kind of artistic side. I like all that stuff, but when you have to sit down and kind of plod through something very laboriously, it's kind of my idea of hell.
No,
somebody has to do it.
But you're really good at all these things, though. You are amazing how you just learn something new all the time from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'm not good at it. Somebody has to do it. I don't want to do it, and I'm not. Maybe it's because I've got that ability to sit down and plod through it that I do it, and people think it's good, but it's just plodding. Anyone can sit down and plod through something. But
I'm a plodder. I'm a plodder. So with a brotherhood of plodding. Plodding gets a lot of shit done, though, Tommy. You got to admit it. I mean, it gets things done that otherwise would just stop, because without the plodders, things wouldn't get done.
Yep, you're quite right there. Yeah, we need the plodders, but I prefer to delegate. For me, the art of timekeeping is delegation, and if you can afford it, you delegate work. So
I'm thinking of making a delegate or plod T-shirt, which we could sell to our audience. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I got into. What did I do? I made some hats, and it says SNGO 25 years.
Okay, let's give me a link, and I'll put it up. You might sell like 3.
I haven't made any link or anything for sale.
The other consistent question that's been coming up in these interviews is with people like Rachel Cohen and Harry Weir and Liam and those sort of guys, and people with Alan Benzie from different generations, is that decision to stay in Scotland and build a career or to go and do it somewhere else. What were your reasons for coming back to Scotland, and was that a difficult decision, and how do you feel about it?
Before I came back to Scotland, I was living in America for quite a long time. I had loads of money, didn't have to come back to Scotland to live with my mum. Could have stayed there, but in my heart, I didn't really like big cities. Never liked New York. Hated it the first time I went. I went there when I was, I think, 16. Stayed with a drug lord in New York. And
Wow, that sounds like a story.
that wasn't a very good experience.
Was that
Yep.
that Airbnb or something that you got that place with a drug lord?
It wasn't invented yet. The internet
Ah.
wasn't really invented. This is 1983,
I know.
1984. It wasn't till a few years later the internet was invented.
Druglordsplayroom.com.
There was no dot anything. No, I just went to New York to stay with my friend's dad, and
Oh,
he
wow.
was this saxophone player, a friend of mine at Berkeley. Being from Schema, Wesley Hills, I didn't know many black people. So when I went to Berkeley, there was loads of black people, and befriended quite a lot of them. And one of my best friends was this big, tall black guy who played alto, and he said, "Come to New York, stay at my dad's place." It was way down in Canal Street. I remember we buzzed the buzzer and went up to the first floor, and the guy, his dad, had a metal door with chains on it. I remember it distinctly, and there was holes in the door, like bullet holes.
Oh, shit. Okay.
The guy used one of the holes as like to see who it was.
Yeah.
And so the chains came off, and he opened the door, and there was this big, massive black guy with no hair, quite intimidating looking. And my friend, obviously he's big as well, and he's his dad, so he embraces them, and we go in, and it's a big studio apartment which had tons of stuff in it. I just remember it. On the right hand side there was kind of racks of clothes and instruments in cases, and a piano, upright piano. On the left there's a big long table, and there was a woman there, like with white powder on glass, and
Okay.
some big bag of kind of green stuff, and lots of pills, and and the phone is going all the time.
Sounds like a movie.
No, it's true.
No, I mean, it's like those scenes when you're in real life, but it feels like a movie. Was it like that? Oh my God, this is like being in a film.
No, I was 16 years old. So for me, I was just kind of looking around, just like,
Yeah.
hey, just, clocking the place. And the phone was going off like the clappers, hey man, I need a fix. And it's, you see, you would never answer his phone. And the first thing my friend's father said was, help yourself.
Okay.
That was it. That was the big decision of my life. Do I go left or do I go right?
Yeah.
And because of the way I've been brought up, not to swear, not to drink, not to, I said no. But I did say, can I have one of the shirts? I remember, because he had like a big, like 20 shirts, just like in a shop.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a shop. So I took a shirt. And then I found that this is where we were going to stay for a week, on the floor, no bed.
Okay, wow.
Just my coat. And downstairs there was a jazz club, and upstairs was Mike Stern.
Oh shit! Okay.
Flat out, in his crazy days, and so every night the jazz club was packed. A lot of transactions. The place was stinking of whatever. And during the daytime, musicians would come. And that's where I got to meet Jaco Pastorius for the first time. So he would come up and play piano and hang out. And he'd have all his music in a carrier bag, like a plastic bag, a word-of-mouth big band music, just leaving it hanging around. And Don Elias would be there, Rashia Lee.
How long was that before he died? Jaco?
Few years. Just a few years. Not that long.
Because there was a bit when he was like homeless and stuff, and he was down on his luck, wasn't there? Was it sort of during that period, or?
This is probably at that period.
Yeah.
He seemed like a really nice guy. He talked about playing in Glasgow, and he showed me how to do a handshake in Indian language, and then he invited us to play. So my mate and I, we would just turn up at the Blue Note or 7th Avenue South, and it was like that. Then that was like a movie. So you'd have a big long line at the front, and we would be with the drug dealer, and we'd go straight to the top of the queue, go in and get a front table, and then play with the band.
Right. Well, so
that was the movie part.
But it sounds so amazing. Like, but you decided, but that was, you were in the States for how long? How many years?
Your question was why did I decide to not stay, or why did I decide to come home? And this is one of the reasons that I decided not to stay, because of my first experience of New York was that. And for me, you know, it was like, okay, when's the place going to be raided? You couldn't, nobody slept. There was no bed. I'd sleep on the floorboards with my my duffel coat. You know, we stayed there for a week, and the place did get raided later, not when we were there. My friend's father's dead now, I think, and but it was an incredible experience. I've got tapes of the sessions we played in 7th Avenue South with Jacko, you know, the gigs with Rasha Lee and Gonzalez was playing, and you know, we were really bad players, but because we had friends in high places, we got to play.
You were pretty good when you were 16, Tommy.
Nah, not really, but it was enlightening, and all these musicians were completely out of it, of course.
Yeah.
And that was a really bad period for New York.
Right.
It was really awful, I think. So by the time I left school when I was 18, I left Berkeley and got into Gary Burton's band and got the Blue Note contract and ended up getting a kind of good life, lots of money flying around, and you know, you decide what do you want to do. And so I decided I'd move to Paris, study more.
Okay.
And so between, I think, 89 and was it 89, 1990. So I had a 4-year contract with Blue Note that started in 89. And I came back to Scotland in 93, and I signed with Lynn Records then. And then I realized that Scotland kind of didn't have all the stuff that the other countries had, because we used to go and do workshops all over the planet with Gary Burton, and we would be kind of the band, and he would demonstrate how to develop a motif and stuff, and we would do that in every place we ever played, from South America to Israel to, you know, wherever. And we would see that they had schools in these places, they had big bands, they had real infrastructure. And so when I came back to Scotland, I saw that there was a lack of pretty much a lot of things. You know, there was no school. All the kids were kind of leaving to go to England, and there was no big band, national big band. There was no federation or forum, which was independent, like in Norway, where they had, you know, Central Forum. And
well, you've done an amazing job getting all these things started, and so you came back to sort of to fill some of these gaps.
I did go to pretty much all the universities and asked them if they wanted to start a program, and they all said no. This is 11 years before we started the program at the RCS.
Wow. And I was playing with Matt Carmichael and Fergus McCready, the gig that you're coming to do next month. They were such fantastic musicians, and they're such lovely people, and they're so, you know, that you've done it. I remember thinking, you know, you provided these guys with a great education in terms of musicianship and everything else, and I don't think you're completely responsible for their personalities in total, but but they are lovely, and they're really, really exciting musicians, young musicians, and they've got a great attitude, and they're two of many great ambassadors for what you've done and what you do. So,
I've noticed that specifically about the younger generation since 2009, when we got the first cohort in. I remember thinking, wow, these kids are much nicer people than the kids I was brought up with, our generation. And then
they're much nicer than us.
And then
this is being shown during the interval of your gig today on the 1st of October, and we've just heard the first set, and I just wondered what you thought of it.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I can't tell you.
We just heard it. It just happened just now. Just this interview's coming after it. What did
Are you saying that I have to pretend I heard it, or I have to act like I did hear it in this
I'm
light?
I'm not telling you what to do,
light
Tommy.
in the evening.
This is a tradition. This is a question I've asked everybody, and it's just interesting to see what happens. And you're entitled to tell me to go and fuck myself.
Not at all. If I knew we were pretending, I would have blacked out my windows so they wouldn't think I was in Iceland. Some kind of insomnia.
I actually thought it was just a background you got off Google, so that would explain it.
Well, no, I'm still thinking about that program. So I'm looking at some songs of Arl Dennison that I hope we will play, and that we just did play, that sounded really great with lots of interplay. And then the other stuff that I did with Schofield, that's really quite difficult, that music.
Okay.
So,
maybe you want to send that one up ahead of time.
I'm going to send it back in time because we've already played it.
Yes, you should have sent that a couple of weeks ago, because we might not screw it up so much.
I did send it a couple of weeks ago, but because I'm already here, back in time, looking, forward looking back, we're gonna.
Well, I'm so glad that you did send it 2 weeks ago. That's because we all practiced it, and that's why it was so perfect. Well, listen, Tommy, that's great, man, and we are all really excited about you coming to play with us, and looking forward to it very, very much. And thanks a lot for making the time to do this interview as well. And
my pleasure. Thanks for asking. And hopefully I played up to my ability, which I'm working at. Because, being on lockdown, that's one of the things which is difficult, is to keep up your chops. Because you've got tour chops, and then you got home chops. And a home chops not as good as the tour chops.
And you've got pork chops.
And then you've got the pork chops, which you're going to serve in the break to the band. I know
we normally go to the chippy. That's the main food option. Great. And see you in a few weeks. And looking forward.
It was great.
I mean, see you for the second set.